On the hunt for comfortable, timeless Western boots? You already know the best place to shop for quality boots is at your local Tecova store. So stop by Tecova's Nashville, at the Mall at Green Hills, or on Broadway by Ryman Auditorium. That's right, you now have 2 locations to choose from. Grab a cold one as you shop and get fitted by a pro. Tecova's Nashville is at your service, and you can find your perfectly fitted dream boots with the help of their expert staff. Everyone will be asking where you got your sick new boots, but I won't be asking because I know they must be Tecovas. That's TECOVAS.com. Don't go gently, y'all.
Today on CityCast Nashville, in the wake of Tuesday's election, we imagine some of you might be dealing with frustration, anxiety, and possibly even grief. And while everyone manages their emotions in different ways, one of my personal favorite things to do when I feel like crap is to go for a run. Putting My Chemical Romance on repeat very loud in my headphones also helps. But anyway, earlier this year, Grace Fuse spoke with Lee Wilson, the owner of Nashville Running Company, about how to start running here in Nashville. It's not the right outlet for everyone, but I am hoping their conversation will inspire you to stop doom scrolling and get outside in whatever capacity you're able. It's Thursday, November 7th. I'm your executive producer, Whitney Pastorek, and this is what Nashville's talking about.
I want to start in the most controversial place, if I may. We're going to talk about some running groups. My understanding of running groups is that they're a fantastic way to meet hot young singles. Have you found that a lot of people at running groups wind up dating people from the running group? Is that accurate?
Oh, it's a great question. I mean, I wouldn't know much about that, maybe fortunately or unfortunately. But in saying that, when I first moved here, I would say it seemed so. I mean, when I first moved here, 16 years ago, the East Nasties were one of the, well, I wouldn't say the only, but one of the only groups. And it was the biggest. So a lot of people would date within the group, and
specifically at East Nasties.
Well, that's the only one I ran with back then. So
got it.
Yes, I'm just selecting them just because, and I assume it's probably correct today. I'm just, I'm too old, and not everyone does that, but I'm sure there are some few within each group that do.
Great. Okay, I just wanted to capture people's attention.
Yeah, I mean,
if they don't want to run.
Runners are good people, usually fairly intelligent people. So it's, it's not a bad group to date within, I guess.
Okay, so that's a good argument for starting running if you are slow like me. Let's just start, because you mentioned East Nasties. Can we just go over some of the major players in terms of running groups in Nashville?
Yeah, and it's grown up a lot here in Nashville. As Nashville's grown, as you can assume, the running groups have grown, and it's crazy how many groups there are. I mean, there's a few off the top of my head. You got these Nasties, obviously, that, we partner with them quite often, and I've been I shouldn't say big part, but I've been a part of them for years. 12 South, I mean, Joanna leads them. She does a great job. There's the Black Men Run, the Black Girls Run. You've got the Donaldson Run Club. You got PR Bandits on Saturdays, Capitol Steps Workout, the Nations Run Club, Nashville Harriers. So there's quite a few. I mean, I'm forgetting probably twice that. But yeah, it's pretty neat to see the explosion of run clubs. It's a social activity and a fitness activity as well. So it's kind of fun.
So how would I find or join these groups? Is it like an Instagram or Facebook thing?
I don't do much on either of those. But yes, I try to stay off those things. But yeah, each of those clubs will have social media pages. I mean, just a Google search. I know a lot of people call us asking for some of that stuff too. And we try to give them the best direction possible. So depending on where they're staying or what they're doing in town.
Yeah. So I recently bragged to somebody about running a 12-minute mile and they laughed at my face. Maybe they were just being a jerk, but I want to know, if I join a running group, can I still be slow and be socially tolerated, or will people resent me because I'm slow and holding back the group?
Well, I would hope not. I would hope you'd be totally fine within each group. I mean, some of them are going to be a little more focused on training for races or half marathons, full marathons, but most are very inclusive. All the ones that I run with are going to be inclusive to all levels. I mean, you got these Nasties, 12 South, you've got anywhere from 6-minute milers up to 15-minute milers or plus. So some of them are going to have walk run groups at all levels and all paces. So it's pretty neat. I mean, I know a lot of people are deterred by groups, but you try not to, you tell them, hey, you can talk to people if you want to, you don't have to talk to people. And eventually, hopefully you meet people, and some people are going to be a little shy when they first come to those groups. Sometimes some groups will get a little cliquish, but usually if you're a good person or, somebody that's fairly social, you're going to be able to meet people fairly easy.
So what's actually involved in like being part of a running group?
Just show up.
You just show up. So we're always going on a run. Is that just...
Yep. Simply show up. I mean, from the groups that I've seen over the years and all the groups, and I mean, I'm 47, so I've been running for almost 40 years. Every group I've come to in almost 40 years, you just show up. I mean, then from there, you can either break out in certain pace groups or just hopefully find somebody that might be your pace and run with them.
So if some of these groups are training for specific things, can you let me know what some of the coolest fall races and marathons are that we could be training for?
Well, I'd say the coolest ones are going to be the trail races that we put on, but usually usually trail races, we put on trail races, so they're a little smaller. Now that, once the weather starts cooling down, you get a lot of fantastic 5Ks. You can go online and go to Running in the USA and kind of, select cities and states and narrow it down from there.
So looking ahead to these, if I was like a casual runner and I wanted to run, say, my first 5K, how far in advance would I need to start training so that I don't die on the 5K, like for an average person?
I mean, there's 5K programs out there that allow, 2 to 3 months. You could start training.
Okay.
A lot of them will be a walk, these nasties call it, and a lot of people call it the couch to 5K. So you're just getting from the couch to a 5K. And anywhere from 2 to 3 months, is kind of an easy transition for most people. It's amazing to see people go from not thinking they can run a 5K 3 months prior to running the whole thing. And it's awesome. It's one of the neatest things that we've seen over the years, because having run for so long and having talked to people that have run for so long, it's just awesome to see people that have not run and are getting into running and just seeing the transition and the physical and the mental shape that they've just, turned into. It's such a neat thing. You could run it right out of the box if you want to, I guess. If you could walk, jog it, and you'd probably be fine.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't be, but that's okay. I don't even know how I would deal with the chafing. And that kind of brings me to, if I'm going to show up to a running group, what are the kinds of things I need to bring with me to be prepared?
The longer the distance, typically, as you can assume, is you're going to want to bring probably a little more stuff. The 5K, you can get away with almost nothing. I mean, shoes and shorts and a top. There's going to be hydration along the course.
Really? Okay.
Typically, if it's a race that's put on well, they're going to have some hydration and nutrition around the course and some medical assistance, that kind of stuff. The longer the distance, the more people will typically carry. But again, some people won't, because they'll have that stuff on the course. And you can just utilize that stuff on the course.
How about for trail running? I have a friend who the only kind of running she does is trail running, because she feels like a vampire in Twilight, or equivalently can kind of romanticize it. Yeah. But I've never tried trail running. Do I need different shoes for that?
I wouldn't say you need them, but there are trail shoes that are more specific to trail. I mean, when I grew up, they didn't make any of these fancy trail shoes that they have now. We just wore road shoes on the trail. And I come from Oregon, so Oregon's trails that we ran, are a little more aggressive than most of the trails around here. So again, it depends on the person, depends on budget, depends on what they're focused on, depends on the trail. But yeah, there's trail shoes, awesome trail shoes, tons of trail shoes out. Every brand has them. And that is one of the things that a lot of people that get into trail will have. Trail running is awesome. I love it. That's most of the stuff. Like if I'm racing, that's mostly what I'll do, just because like your friend, it's just less monotonous.
Seems kind of adventurous, relatively. And more stimulating, maybe mentally.
Yeah, mentally, I think it's just like a release too. You just get out there, nobody's out there. It's quiet, the birds and the bees. And it's just, and as long as you're not falling and tripping and breaking anything, you're usually good.
No, I mean, I think that would be the part that is challenging for me.
Running with other people is obviously safer. And sometimes more fun for people, but I mean, a lot of times I like to run by myself, so I don't have to talk.
Yeah.
But
okay.
in saying that, it's less monotonous. It's more fun. It's slower. You can take your time. Walking hills is not looked down upon out in the trail world. But yeah, if you're doing a long trail run or a long trail race, back to our earlier discussion, where you're going to want to carry more gear and more hydration, more nutrition. Because if you're just out for a run, say at Percy Warner or Beaman Park or something like that, there's nothing out there. So if you're 6-7 miles in, you're going to need some fluids, and there's not a drinking fountain out there in the middle of the trail.
There's not a person with a little cone cup
right.
to rehydrate me.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like I'm kind of been convinced to try it a little bit more, to be honest. Like you're kind of selling it to me.
Yeah, you need to.
All right, and we're back with Lee Wilson from Nashville Running Company. Part of why I asked you about gear earlier is because it can be so expensive to start a new hobby. Is running something you can do on a budget?
You can keep it pretty simple. Pair of shoes is obviously the most important thing. A good pair of shoes. And, I always recommend going to a specialty store in your local area. And hopefully those are going to those should be the people that you trust for gear and information. So shoes right off the bat, that's your number one thing. You don't need a lot. I grew up in a day where they didn't make any fancy socks either. So we just wore cotton socks. So non-cotton socks, non-cotton gear, as far as shirts and shorts, obviously that's a focus. We have all that. You can go get those at big box stores, at Costco, Target, I'm sure. So just depending on budget and depending on fit and depending on style that you like, every store out there, every active store out there is going to have that kind of stuff. And then from there, obviously, depending on what you're focused on, you've got nutrition, hydration, and so forth. And watches, and depending on what you like and what you do, you can spend anywhere from a couple $100 to thousands of dollars.
How do I know if my shoes are the right shoes? Like, if I buy some shoes and they hurt, can I bring them back? How does that work?
Yeah. When you go buy a shoe, the store should hopefully help you get fitted. And there's multiple ways of doing that depending on the store that you frequent or go to. Most stores, including us, will have a return policy. Ours is 30 days. So if you get into a shoe and hopefully we nail it. We do a good job. I won't, not to toot our horn, but we do a pretty good job. Of course.
But if I go to some bad store.
Yeah, no, of course not. But we're not going to hit it 100% either. So there's going to be once in a while where somebody's got to bring one back and we swap them or we credit them, and just depending, or, a lot of people want to try something new and something different. Hey, I've been in this shoe. I want to try something different. And it just doesn't end up working out for them. They don't like it,
So is it reasonable for me to expect that my shoes are immediately going to be comfortable, or is there like a break-in period or a certain mileage?
You should have a shoe. These days, these shoes are made very well. So you should be, most of the time, you should be able to get into a shoe and rock and roll. You're going to find some shoes will have a little bit of a break-in period, but usually after 2 or 3 runs, I'll know if the shoe's good. Usually on the first run, and I'm not that picky. I get all mine for a very good price of free, so that's saying something. But in saying that, I love to test them. I have a lot of shoes, so I run through them, I test them, I know them all pretty well. Yeah. So within a couple runs, you should know.
Another thing that has generally kept me from running, or at least as much as I think I probably could physically do, is the mental block of it that I do not know how to get past, in terms of, as soon as I start thinking to myself, I wish I wasn't running, I usually stop. I think one thing that might help me with that is being able to listen to music, but I've always found a hard time finding headphones that aren't a pain in the ass, partially because I don't really want to wear like a fanny pack to hold my phone.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you have any recommendations for how to listen to music in a not annoying way?
Yeah, there's multiple ways out there. I'm the type of person that I like minimal. I don't listen to music at all. Once in middle school, I think back then it was a Discman, and I was like, I'm done. And then I never have listened to music since. I just like the birds and the bees. But in saying that, most people these days seem like they like to listen to music while they're running, which, hey, whatever helps you get out there and be active and stay active, I'm all for it. We carry a brand just here at the store called Shocks. It's bone conduction, so you can hear ambient noise around you, which is nice. So for safety, that's nice.
Yeah.
There's a lot of other brands out there too that are good. That are going to be solid. That you do have to carry your phone with most of these things, which again, I don't like to carry any of that kind of stuff unless I'm way out in the middle of nowhere. But again, most people do. There's definitely belts or handheld water bottles that carry that stuff, or packs that you can hold all that stuff in, just depending on how much extra you want to carry.
Yeah, I know I used to have like a little silly armband that held my phone, which was maybe easier when they were small. But I know there are some like running shorts and stuff that you can stick it in a little pocket.
Yeah, some will for sure. Some, and it just, again, depends on the type of short and depends on how. If you don't mind something flopping around a little bit in your shorts, then, even if it's the back of your shorts, then have at it. I don't know. To me, it just seems a little cumbersome and a little annoying.
The flopping is kind of
nobody likes
a limiting
that
factor
in
for
any
me.
which way.
Yeah. Can we do some just quick recommendations for places to run? I'd love to know flat recommendations versus hilly recommendations. I sometimes see people running up I guess it's the Capitol lawn, which looks like a crazy pants thing to do, but I don't know what the best spots are for that.
There's a lot of good ones. And the greenways are great, connected some, which is nice. Obviously, as Nashville's gotten busier with cars, it's a little more, frustrating, for both ends, the runners and the cars, to run on the roads. But I'm a big fan of Shelby Bottoms, which it's in my backyard, so that's nice. That's flat. On this side of the river, if you want to get a little more elevation, you can always cross the river and go into Stones River and get over, on that side of Cumberland, and go over to the dam and then come back. So you can get some good mileage there. Some of that is pretty flat, most of that, but if you get right across the river there, you can get some good elevation. Percy Warner Park has the road, and that would, I mean, it's not Greenway, but there's the road that goes through Percy Warner, and that would be probably around here, because cars can't drive on there anymore, so you can get some pretty good elevation. You can get a 5.8 loop, 5.8 loop, or 11.2 loop.
How do these guys rank up in terms of like the best views around Nashville for running trails?
Oh, geez. That's another thing. I'm so simple. I just run.
You're not even looking.
I don't even look. I mean, I look sometimes, but some of the trails, obviously, like if you get out to Beeman Park, are going to be great. Just depending on where you are. Obviously, the more elevation or the higher you can get, the more you can see. And once the leaves start coming down, even in Shelby, like right now, you can't see the Cumberland River, but once those leaves fall, you can see, past the Cumberland, which is nice too.
I know you said you're from Oregon originally, but it seems like you've really found community in Nashville through running.
When I moved here, it was probably a year before I started running with East Nasties. And Mark Miller, a friend of mine who has now moved, but he had started the group, or he and a couple friends had started it. When I started running with him, it was probably 20 people and just neat and small. And we became just a pretty close group. And obviously it grew quickly from there. And now it's, very large. And, it was, for me personally, it was a big piece of where we are today, being part of the small community it was back then. And as East Nashville wasn't what it is today, just seeing the growth with the group, the store still being alive, and then East Nashville just continuing to grow. It's been a pretty neat, I guess, almost parallel for all those things come until today. So yeah, it's been, for me and for the store, it was huge just to start running with them. And it also just kicked off my further thought of starting my own business and doing my own thing and getting back to what I love to do. Yeah.
So what was your motivation behind starting your business?
I guess some of it was idiocy. And then some of it was just wanting to get out of the corporate life. It takes years to really start moving along in some small businesses. I mean, running the same thing with a running store, and luckily we've been in East Nashville where we've had some loyal customers. It's been a great place to grow. But it's taken a lot of hard work and a lot of time, I would say, but I don't regret it. I mean, I look back going, I could maybe be retired at this point if I would have stayed in the corporate world. But, if I'm 90, if I live till I'm at 90, I'll look back and be thankful that, we were part of the area here.
Yeah. I love with all of this how we have kind of these two community things going on. If we have the community of you joining a running group or running in the race and like presumably maybe meeting some people and feeling like you're a part of something bigger, and then also feeling a part of something bigger in terms of like your entrance itself going back into the community. I think that's really a cool thing about running that we don't always get in other sports. Yeah,
I agree. It's neat to see. And again, that a lot of it is like runners. I mean, as much as you want to get out of it personally, I would say you give back a lot too, be it financially or just, helping out, volunteering. So there's a lot of that within the community, which is awesome.
I love it. Thank you so much for coming on. This is fantastic information. And maybe I will run. Maybe.
We hope so. Hopefully
we'll see. I'll update you if I do.
Well, thank you very much. Thanks for having me on.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
That's all for today here on CityCast Nashville. If you enjoyed the show, why not tell a friend, rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our Hey Nashville newsletter. We'll be back tomorrow morning with the Friday News Roundup with a lot more on what happened this week and other news from around the city. Y'all take care of each other and yourselves.